Let's do a quick recap of what we've covered in 2 Kings chapter 20 and 21. Our big idea is if you let pride be your guide and you refuse to be humble and you ignore God's warning, you will certainly crumble. If you let pride be your guide and you refuse to be humble and you ignore God's warning, you will certainly crumble. We are in between 680 and 700 BC. Assyria had become a dominant force, but God had sent an angel of the Lord to kill 185,000 Assyrian soldiers. So now Judah is in victory and Hezekiah is in victory. Hezekiah prayed and God answered his prayer, brought victory. Hezekiah then prayed for God's healing on his life because he had received a terminal illness, and God heard his prayer and gave him 15 more years of his life. But toward the end of Hezekiah's life, in those 15 years, Hezekiah becomes prideful. Jesus had this to say about pride in Matthew 23:12. He said, "Whoever exalts himself will be humble, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted." Religious pride and legalism is a real problem. It was a problem then, and it is a problem for us today. We can wear our pride on our sleeve, even in our own faith. Sometimes we begin to compare ourselves to others. Oh, I'm better than that guy. Or we look at a long list of religious do's and don'ts and we hold on to that list and we live by that list. We begin to think that that is what's going to save us. But God isn't looking for our religion. He is looking for relationship with us. Theologian John Calvin said, "Pride is the pregnant mother of all sins." The common thread that we could pull through any sin pattern in our life that ends up taking over, where we allow the enemy, we crack the door open for the enemy, pride is going to be found in there. And I bet it's going to be the main catalyst. So Hezekiah has gone from humility to pride in the later years of his life. He welcomes Babylon to come and check out the temple and come and see Jerusalem. This was totally against God's will. Hezekiah had gotten sloppy in his faith. He had gotten prideful. And Isaiah says, because you have done this, one day all of this will be taken away by Babylon. Hezekiah's, even his response is apathetic toward God. His response is essentially this: well, at least it's not going to happen in my lifetime. What a selfish response. When you and I are called to care not just about ourselves and our generation, but we are called to care about the next generation. And we know about the next generation from Hezekiah. His son Manasseh was a real knucklehead. He was a real tyrant. He became the king at age 12. He reigns for 55 years. He has the longest tenure of any king of Judah, but he is awful and godless, and he will be known by his sin. Scripture tells us that he rebuilds the high places that Hezekiah tore down. He constructs altars of Baal. He builds Asherah poles. He leads Judah in worship of the occult. He puts pagan altars and pornographic images in the temple and in places of worship. He burns his son in sacrifice. He uses mediums and witchcraft. He sheds innocent blood. This is a politician that is celebrating sex outside of God's design, that is celebrating an abortion culture, and he is leading the nation in doing this, and he's got the nation excited about it. What he is doing is he is opening the door open to God, to the devil's destruction. And all the prophets are at this time speaking against him, but he continues to do it anyways. And there is a promise from the prophets that one day God will wipe Jerusalem, the capital of Judah, as one wipes a dish. And he will forsake his people. God will forsake him. And the word for it actually means to skin them. They will go through a very painful time. And of course, we know that they will be taken over by the Babylonians in several decades. Then Hezekiah has a son named Manasseh. Manasseh is terrible. Then Manasseh has a son named Ammon. Ammon is also terrible. Their culture is so awful and such a death culture that Ammon gets murdered by his own servants. Josiah later becomes king. We're going to talk about him next week, but Ammon is also a wicked king. Throughout this entire time, God never lost control. The people just chose to do things their own way. And Hezekiah chose pride over humility, which led a slippery slope to allowing the enemy a foothold in their life. If you let pride be your guide and you refuse to be humble and you ignore God's warnings, you will certainly crumble. If you have some time for discussion this week, I want you to ask each other, what's something that you took a lot of pride in? What is something that you are really proud of as a kid that seems silly now? I look at my life and I think of my baseball card collection, my football, hockey, basketball card collection. I took so much pride in those things. And I thought, if I got the rookie cards of all the main players of the 80s and 90s, that at the age of 45, I'm going to retire, I'm going to be rich. Well, it turns out that all of my rookie cards and all of my best cards from the 80s and 90s, they're worth a few bucks. But the market was so saturated that they're not really worth all that much. I took a whole lot of pride, spent a lot of time curating my collection, but it's not worth that much. How about you? Is there something that you took so much pride in, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't mean all that much and it's not worth all that much? That is what Hezekiah got wrapped up in. The pride of his accomplishments, the pride of all the stuff that he thought was his, but was really God's. I hope you enjoy your time of discussion, and we will do this again next week.